In the past 100 years, we humans have made many advancements. We've gone from horse-drawn carriages to high-speed electric cars. We advanced our understanding of the atom and flight. We have moved past some negative traditions and embraced new ones, and we have even left our Earth to explore space with both manned and unmanned probes. Our knowledge of the cosmos is vast compared to our thinking in the 1800s. We have embraced the idea that we are not alone in the universe. From simple circuits, AM radio, the electric light bulb, to computers, the internet, cell phones, and now artificial intelligence. Throughout our evolution from antiquity to today, we have witnessed strange craft in our skies, and throughout antiquity, we have described these craft in the same way. Over the years, we have given them different names, such as spirits, fairies, skyships, airships, flying saucers, UFOs, and now UAPs. Humans have written about these craft from ancient Sumerian texts to modern scientific papers. We still have not learned exactly what they are, why they are here, and where they come from. From a historical point of view, the past 100 years has seen us, humans, advance technologically in leaps and bounds. Is this simply because we are now more intelligent and our intelligence is advancing faster? Or could we have been given some help to push us along? The brain of a human today is no different from the brain of a human that lived in the 1600s. We have access to more information, but we ourselves have not grown new and different cerebrium. So why this sudden jump in technology, engineering, and society? Why are we more advanced in the past 100 years than the thousands of years before? As we have advanced, so has our knowledge on the cosmos, and running throughout this timeline of great new discoveries and inventions, one thing has remained constant in our society. That is the witnessing and reporting of unidentified phenomena in our skies. In times past, UFOs were seen and recorded. However, in the past 50 years, this phenomenon has increased to an almost daily occurrence. The behavior of the UFO has changed as well, with far more scrutiny on our military, energy production, weapons, and defenses. Recent reports suggest public accounts of unidentified anomalous phenomena, more commonly called UFOs, were more likely to emerge when civilians were located within 18 miles of a military operations area. Using publicly available data from the National UFO Reporting Center, researchers from the RAND Corporation found there was a consistent correlation between areas of military operations and public reports of UAP sightings. Since it was formed in 2022, the All-Domain Anomaly Resolution Office has received 366 reports of unidentified aerial phenomena, or UAPs, essentially the military's term for a UFO. That total reflects 247 new UAP reports and another 119 that occurred before March 2021, but hadn't been included in an earlier preliminary report. The new numbers indicate a steep rise in UAP sightings. The preliminary report released in June of 2021, listed just 144 reports, covering a 17-year period. With the subsequent additions, the All-Domain Anomaly Resolution Office, or AARO, had 510 UAP reports in its files at the end of August 22. Officials say they believe the rise in UAP reports is due to U.S. government efforts to destigmatize the topic of UAPs and instead recognize the potential risks the phenomenon poses, both as an aviation hazard and potential adversary activity, such as foreign surveillance efforts. The AARO doesn't only study objects in the air. The military's definition of a UAP was recently expanded to include objects in the air, the sea, as well as transmedium objects. AARO defines that last category as objects or devices that are observed to transition between space and the atmosphere, or between the atmosphere and bodies of water that are not immediately identifiable. In recent years, one of the most compelling accounts of a UAP encounter came from retired U.S. Navy fighter pilot Alex Dietrich, who had described seeing a highly unusual object off the coast of Southern California in 2004, after a colleague spotted something rolling water below them. The object was roundish with an oblong shape, and it didn't have any apparent flight control surfaces. The pilot said it seemed to be bouncing around and changing course very quickly and in a way that would not have been able to maneuver of our own aircraft to keep up with it. In 2008, Bob McGuire, one of the staff on board the USS Blue Ridge, experienced a military UFO sighting. The U.S. Navy aircraft carrier was in the midst of a huge typhoon, and Bob claims to have seen a mysterious craft so big that it stopped the rain from falling onto the ship from stem to stem. In his experience, he claims that when he was on the bridge of the ship, there was no rain hitting the ship despite them being in the middle of a typhoon. When he looked out the windows, he said he glanced up and saw a glow above us in the sky. And when he went to get a closer look, he noticed that the lights were yellowish and appeared to be on a flat surface. The eerie part about this military UFO sighting is that when Bob continued watching the ominous light, the object suddenly grew bigger before taking off, shooting straight up into the cloudy sky. And once the mysterious object did that, the rain came back. On March 5, 2004, Mexican Air Force pilots filmed 11 unidentified objects flying in the skies of the southern Campeche state. This military UFO sighting featured figures they described as bright objects, some sharp points of light, and others like large headlights moving rapidly. The pilots recalled the event of the objects flying at an altitude of about 11,500 feet. A chilling detail came forth as the objects reportedly surrounded the jet as the Mexican Air Force pilots were on their routine anti-drug trafficking vigilance in Campeche. One of the plane's captains said that the military jets were pursuing the lights. He claims that the so-called lights could feel that they were following them, and when the jet stopped following, they disappeared. The Iranian military has encountered their own UFOs as well. In November 2004, an Iranian F-14 Tomcat tried to lock in on a luminous object that was appearing on their radar, only for the navigation equipment to be disrupted. The pilot of that aircraft described the object as spherical, with something like a green afterburner creating a considerable amount of turbulence behind it. And just like every military UFO sighting report, the unidentified object increased its speed and quickly disappeared. Another scary encounter for the Iranian military happened just over 7 years later in January 2012, when an F-14 scrambled to intercept an unidentified object, or an intruder, that was flying towards the Bushehr nuclear power plant. After the aircraft took off, the F-14 exploded, killing both crewmen that were on board. No one knows why the aircraft exploded. The cause of the tragedy was ruled inconclusive. These military UFO sightings are just as chilling as any paranormal story. Despite some definite level of secrecy, the military admits UFO sightings left and right. Whatever the objects are, they leave military and civilian populations confused and wondering what the truth is. Much speculation points to the objects being alien UFOs. In any case, we're left perpetually wondering if there's anything out there watching us, and if there is, do they come in peace? In the past 10 years, military radar has advanced, and now we can detect smaller and slower moving objects compared to a high-speed jet. These enhancements have allowed the military a new capability to detect UAPs and UFOs that otherwise would have been filtered out of their radar systems as noise or false readings, like a flock of birds or balloons. They do see flocks of birds and balloons, but those objects have predictable paths and can easily be determined to be non-threatening. Objects that appear to speed up, slow down, make right-angle turns, and even shoot off into space are now within the military's ability to track more efficiently. Since these new radar systems and filters have been implemented in all military radar, there has been an increase in UAP and UFO recordings, enough to warrant a new look at all craft moving through our skies with impunity. Multiple objects that defy conventional avionics are recorded and documented almost daily, with some being reported to Congress, the Pentagon, and eventually to the media. However, the government, with all of its tracking and data systems, still have no clue what the UAPs are or what they represent. The enigma of the UAP continues, with little to no signs the mystery will be solved anytime soon. Revelations about UFOs and UAPs began a few years ago when leaks of data about a 2004 encounter happened. 3 UFO videos surfaced which later were confirmed by the government that they were real and actual footage taken by the military. The revolution of a secret UAP study group emerged too, ATIP, or the Advanced Aerospace Threat Identification Program. This program was an unclassified but unpublished investigatory effort funded by the United States government to study unidentified flying objects, or UFOs, or unexplained aerial phenomena, UAPs. The program was first made public on December 16, 2017. The program began in 2007 with funding of $22 million over the 5 years until the available appropriations were ended in 2012. The program began in the U.S. Defense Intelligence Agency. According to the Department of Defense, ATIP ended in 2012 after 5 years. However, further reporting suggested that the U.S. government programs to investigate UFOs continued. This was confirmed in June of 2020 with the acknowledgement of a similar military program, the unclassified but previously unreported Unidentified Aerial Phenomenon Task Force. The revelation of these programs were a bombshell on the public and those interested in UFOs. Before this, the public was told unequivocally that the government and military did not have any interest in UFOs and had stopped studying them with the close of Project Blue Book in 1969. It was a huge awakening and further evidence that the government had maintained a vested interest in the phenomenon. Soon after the huge revelation, there was the disclosure of yet another program, the All-Domain Anomaly Resolution Office, AARO. This is an office within the United States Office of the Secretary of Defense that investigates unidentified flying objects and other phenomena in the air, sea, and/or space, and/or land, sometimes referred to as unidentified aerial phenomenon or unidentified anomalous phenomenon, UAP. Its director is physicist Sean Kirkpatrick. AARO was preceded by the Unidentified Aerial Task Force, a 2020 to 2021 program within the Office of Naval Intelligence used to standardize collection and reporting of sightings of UFOs. UAPTF was detailed in a June 2020 hearing of the United States Senate Select Committee on Intelligence. The UAPTF issued a preliminary report in June 2021. In July 2022, it was announced that the UAPTF would be succeeded as an organization by AARO. NASA's UAP Independent Study Team held a public meeting in June of 2023 showing further UAP footage released by AARO. On April 12, 2021, the Pentagon confirmed the authenticity of pictures and videos gathered by the task force, purportedly showing what appears to be pyramid-shaped objects hovering above the USS Russell in 2019, off the coast of California, with spokeswoman Susan Gao saying, "I can confirm that the referenced photos and videos were taken by Navy personnel." The UAPTF has included these incidents in their ongoing examinations. The following month, Gao further confirmed a second video had been recorded by Navy personnel and was under review by the task force. The video, recorded on July 15, 2019, in the Combat Information Center of USS Omaha, purportedly shows a spherical object flying over the ocean as seen through an infrared camera at night, moving across the screen before stopping and easing down into the water. These revelations have ignited new interest in UFOs and the possible concept of a full UFO disclosure, with many believing this government disclosure may be forthcoming soon. Then on June 25, 2021, the Office of the Director of National Intelligence released a report on UAPs, commonly known as the Pentagon's UFO report. The report found that the UAPTF was unable to identify 143 of 144 objects spotted between 2004 and 2021. The report said that 18 featured unusual movement patterns or flight characteristics, and more analysis was needed to determine if those sightings represented breakthrough technology. The report noted that some of those steps were resource-intensive and required additional investment. The report did not link the sightings to extraterrestrial life, with officials saying, "We have no clear indication that there is any non-terrestrial explanation for them, but we will go wherever the data takes us." As if this were not enough, in 2023, a whistleblower came forward with more claims about the UAP mystery that once again ignited the public and UFO community. In 2023, United States Air Force officer and former intelligence official David Grush was interviewed by various media outlets and testified in a U.S. House of Representatives congressional hearing. Grush claimed that he had conversations with unnamed officials that led him to believe that the U.S. federal government maintains a secretive UFO or UAP recovery program and is in possession of non-human spacecraft along with their dead pilots. In 2022, Grush filed a whistleblower complaint with the U.S. Office of the Intelligence Community Inspector General to support his plan to share classified information with the U.S. Senate Select Committee on Intelligence. He also filed a complaint alleging retaliation by his superiors over a similar complaint he made in 2021. He claims to have viewed documents reporting that Mussolini's government recovered a non-human spacecraft in 1933, which the Vatican and the Five Eyes assisted the U.S. in procuring in 1944 or 1945. Grush claims secondhand knowledge that American citizens have been harmed and killed as part of the government's effort to cover up the information. In response to his June 2023 claims, the National Aeronautics and Space Administration, NASA, and the U.S. Department of Defense, DoD, issued statements reaffirming that no evidence of extraterrestrial life has been discovered and that there is no verifiable information about anyone possessing and reverse engineering any extraterrestrial materials. However, in July 2023, testimony given to the House Committee on Oversight and Accountability, Grush revealed some of his claims under oath, alongside testimony from retired U.S. fighter pilot Ryan Graves and retired U.S. Navy Commander David Fravor on their personal experiences related to UFOs. Grush testified under oath that he could not elaborate publicly on some aspects of his claims, but offered to provide further details to representatives in a sensitive, compartmentalized information facility. When a whistleblower comes forward with such extensive claims, it's important to examine the person making the claims. His or her credibility is on the line. Questions such as, was he in a position to know this information? Is he credible? Did he have access to high-ranking personnel that could confirm the information? And was he an eyewitness or simply reporting what he was told? David Charles Grush is a decorated Afghanistan combat veteran and former Air Force intelligence officer who worked in the National Geospatial Intelligence Agency and the National Reconnaissance Office. From 2019 to 2021, he was the representative of the NRO to the Unidentified Aerial Phenomenon Task Force. From late 2021 to July 2022, he was the co-lead for UAP analysis at the NGA and its representatives to the task force. He assisted in drafting the National Defense Authorization Act of 2023, which includes provisions for reporting of UFOs, including whistleblower protections and exemptions to non-disclosure orders and agreements. His credentials appear to be impeccable. However, at his own admittance, he has not seen any alien craft, UAPs, or aliens. He claims he has seen documents of the existence of such materials and was told by high-ranking officials they do exist, and the retrieval program is real. It is important to also include that he was under oath when he revealed this information to Congress, something that could carry a high penalty if he was lying. Kirkpatrick of the AARO called Grush a liar on his LinkedIn page, which was not an official channel via the government to make such a claim. This pits the two against each other in that one of them must be lying, either the AARO and Kirkpatrick or Grush. It raises the question if the AARO is being updated on all the knowledge the Pentagon actually knows and puts Grush's credentials at risk. It should be noted that Grush did follow protocol with his whistleblower claims and followed the proper procedure to disclose such information to Congress. Kirkpatrick appears to be upset that his AARO department was not included and informed of the forthcoming testimony by Grush, and Kirkpatrick is lashing out personally because he was not in the loop. This could indicate that the new AARO may simply be another project like Blue Book, where only specific information is handed to them when the real and powerful information is excluded. It was well known that Project Blue Book was simply a public relations program designed to debunk UFO sightings in the 1960s. The one thing that all of this scrutiny on UAPs and UFOs does tell us is that there is mountains of evidence and data, that there is a real phenomenon out there, and we are only scratching the surface of any conclusion of what they are. When much of this whistleblower material was revealed, the major news medias didn't report it. Perhaps they are jaded over past leaks that never panned out to be true. Or the media was told to soft sell this to the public so the government would have a way out if it didn't go the way they wanted. In either case, the news is out now, and even though some of the government have denied its validity, whistleblowers have become afraid of possible ramifications to themselves personally because they spoke up. Often distracting political news overshadowed the release of new UAP and UFO information, though that information was far more poignant than the typical politics of the day. The government has been careful when revealing new cosmic information to a public that may not see them in a good light. They want to appear to be safeguarding secrets, but also transparent when it comes to new explosive news. Throughout the revelations over the past few years, the government has maintained that there is no evidence that UAPs are extraterrestrial, even though their very existence suggests some other species has invented and are flying them. Many in the UFO community are looking to the government for some kind of disclosure and to finally come out and say that UFOs are extraterrestrial. Grush indicated that non-human biologics were discovered in the remains of a crashed UAP. This disclosure ignited the UFO community, as most believe this was the disclosure of non-human aliens. However, the term non-human biologics is vague and could be interpreted as test animals used on board an experimental spacecraft. It would not be the first time test animals were used when developing a new and exotic spaceship. When we began our exploration of space, the Russians sent a dog into space. The USA sent trained monkeys and other animals. These were necessary to test the conditions of a space environment and vehicle on biological species to see how they handled it. Similar to a canary in a coal mine, animals are often used to determine the safety and conditions they are exposed to. However, most have now accepted that non-human biologics was a euphemism for alien life. One must be diligent when the government speaks about any subject, especially a sensitive subject like UFOs. If an agency of the government is using test animals, then they would want to keep it a secret or face the wrath of such organizations like PETA, People for the Ethical Treatment of Animals. And Grush never saw the biologics himself. In either case, this term, non-human biologics, gives the government and military a way out, a way to exclaim later that they didn't say alien, but only referred to something non-human, such as an animal. If the government wants to backstep this whistleblower's claim, they have a way to roll it back just in case. This is par for the course when dealing with government transparency. It's often clear as mud. Many now agree a true disclosure will not come from the government and perhaps will only come from the aliens themselves. The truth is, the military and government may have more data of the existence of UAPs and UFOs, but they may not actually know themselves what UAPs are. It is in their best interest that you think they do. Therefore, you will look to them for answers. After all, the government is all-knowing, all-seeing, and the pinnacle of truth and knowledge, right? In the modern era of ufology, we have seen and recorded multiple UAP and UFOs on film, radar, digital media, and night vision. Since the phenomenon is mostly seen in the skies, we believe what we are seeing is advanced craft from a civilization from another planet. The term alien has come to be understood by all to mean a being from another solar system. All of our terminology for this phenomenon has been describing what we believe is advanced technology. However, in times past, this was not the case. Sightings of something unusual in the skies were often seen as gods, fairies, signs and portents, or a spiritual phenomenon. We advanced technologically, therefore the phenomenon advanced with us. We developed the ability to fly with airships and then airplanes. After that, UFOs were airships and aircraft. We developed rockets and traveled to the moon. UFOs became spacecraft. The point is that we see any phenomenon through the lens of where we are at in our evolution. Flying chariots of the gods became alien spacecraft because we now are technologically advanced enough to build our own chariots. As humans, we assume. But what if our assumptions are wrong? We approach this subject as a technology question, that UAPs are ships and spacecraft. What if they are not? The question we have always faced is, what are these things? Perhaps our ancestors were correct in their assumption that these things seen in the sky are a spiritual phenomenon rather than machines. From ancient cave paintings to frescoes painted in the Middle Ages, this phenomenon has always been with us. Man, with his limited understanding of the cosmos, has struggled to explain it, and we continue to struggle today. Science says you can't get there from here because the distances are too great. So we subscribe advanced propulsion systems to the alleged aliens and make them far more advanced than ourselves. The aliens can come here because their technology is better, and they have found a way to make traveling over distance very easy. We explore the use of wormholes and other new and modern scientific ideas to explain how they are able to visit Earth. Is this true? Or is it simply that we can't fathom the notion that we are not able to explain everything, even if the explanation is only a theory? Because they are technologically more advanced, we also look to them to be more spiritually advanced. Therefore, they become angels and light beings filled with wisdom and knowledge that can benefit us. They are here to save us or guide us. This may or may not be true. Technical knowledge and abilities do not necessarily mean that they are wiser, just more creative. We are more technologically advanced than humans from the 1800s, but are we any wiser or spiritually advanced? One look at today's news would suggest otherwise. Within the UFO community, there is a growing movement towards alternative explanations of UAPs and UFOs. The idea is that these are not physical, but rather paranormal or supernatural. Aliens are not necessarily from another planet, but rather from some other realm of reality. UAPs are a physical manifestation from this realm, or a supernatural vessel, or beings themselves. The UAP-UFO mystery may not be something we can understand, at least not from a scientific perspective. Perhaps UFOs and UAPs are not a scientific question, but rather a paranormal question. The subject may better be left to parapsychology rather than scientists. It may not be possible to explain them with a scientific method. Even science acknowledges that there are other dimensions and realms beyond the physical. If UFOs do come from another realm of existence, another reality, then their appearance could be any shape and their methods of flight and capabilities might be limitless. They may not be confined to physical laws or aeronautical restrictions. Our scientific thinking makes us believe they cannot reach Earth because of distance. They may simply pass through a portal and appear anywhere within the universe at will. The truth is, we have no idea what they are, where they come from, and their purpose here, and we shouldn't pretend that we do. Modern movies and literature often depict the aliens as invaders, beings bent on the destruction or exploitation of the human race. The reality is, there has never been an invasion, and for the most part they do not appear hostile. If their plan is to conquer the earth and enslave the human race or wipe us out, they've had plenty of time to do that. In fact, they appear far more interested in our ability to destroy ourselves. UAPs and UFOs are often seen near nuclear bases and atomic facilities. They may have concern for us as we dabble with dangerous elements we don't completely understand and use weapons of mass destruction. Perhaps they are here to observe but not interfere. UAPs have demonstrated they can shut down our nuclear missiles, but they have never detonated one or tried to remove them. It appears to be more curiosity than any other agenda. Though it would be a major hit to our ego, their agenda may have nothing to do with us. Their reasons for coming to our realm, flying around Earth and observing the planet, could be for their own benefit, and we are merely one of a multitude of species here, no more or no less interesting than any other species. Or they may be very interested in us, specifically. In the past 100 years, we have gone from horse-drawn carriages to jet planes, using an abacus to computers, And with cell phones and social media, anyone can broadcast their own message to the world from a pocket device. Humans have evolved in extraordinary ways just in the past 50 years. Perhaps we are fascinating to them because we use technology in different ways. They may want to learn from us new and different ways to use their technology. They may be hoping we evolve to a point where we can understand them. There could be a multitude of reasons why UAPs and UFOs are here, and all are speculation. We have theories, ideas, and concepts that try to explain the alien agenda, but no proof. Till now, we have used the scientific method to understand them with little to no results. The fact is, we're no closer to explaining this phenomenon today than we were in the 1950s when the modern study of UFOs began. It may be time we take another approach. We have always believed UFOs are craft occupied by aliens. They were little green men that later became gray. They are from another planet and are exploring space the way we are with spacecraft and probes. We subscribe our own methods to them and expect the mystery to fit into a methodology we can grasp. We assume they have some agenda or reasons to visit Earth, just as we would when exploring our moon and Mars. They're here to take samples and study our world. They take us and study our genetics. They approach our nuclear storage facilities and bases, buzz our spacecraft, and travel underwater with ease. These are all expected concepts that fit within our ability of what we would do if we had the technology to explore great distances. We are looking at this mystery through our own human lens. If we use the scientific method, then they probably do too, so their actions would be quantified. However, if their science is far more advanced than ours, their methods may appear random to our methodology. The problem is, we're trying to fit them into our way of thinking, and it isn't working. If the UFO enigma is a paranormal subject and not a physical phenomenon, then our approach to it should change and adapt to a more spiritual method. Rather than trying to make it fit our scientific agendas, we should explore it from a supernatural point of view. It could be that they appear to us as physical craft with alien occupants because that is what we would expect. Perhaps they're trying to approach us in such a way that we would understand it. A spacecraft lands, aliens emerge, they conduct genetic experiments on us and then leave. A scenario we can accept, though it would be frightening. This is what we would do if we landed on another planet. In order to explore the human race, they appear as aliens and do things in such a way we can conceptualize. Perhaps they're trying to make it make sense to us. What they are really doing may be far beyond our ability to understand. If UAPs and UFOs come to us via portals and other dimensions rather than other planets, their methods would be so foreign to us we simply cannot comprehend it. So they create a phenomenon for us that we can approach and try to relate to. The truth is, it may be a very long time before we have advanced enough to even begin to understand them. In the meantime, we deal with a mystery and phenomenon that appears to be inexplicable. It would be very easy for us to simply write them off in a religious way and say they are demons, or they are guardians here to guide and direct us towards spiritual unfoldment. Perhaps they are. However, this is not truly understanding the phenomenon, but rather us reaching a conclusion that may or may not be true. If we simply accept this as a catch-all answer to the mystery, we are no closer to actually knowing what is really going on than when the enigma started in antiquity. Nor should we ignore the problem. They are here, and apparently trying to interact with us on some level. We should listen and try to comprehend the best we can. One thing we do know is that with all the sightings and data we have collected so far, the alien conundrum appears to be beyond the grasp of science and logic. This is the rise of the UAP. If proof is what we need, then our priority must be to prove they are something beyond our scope and intelligence level. There was a time when the very existence of UAPs and UFOs were denied. It was something funny, and anyone who said they saw one was either crazy or mistaken. The scientific community and academia believed all UAP sightings could be explained by some natural phenomenon, or were simply hoaxes the gullible would fall for. The government even tried to pigeonhole them into something simple to write off with Project Blue Book and other programs. No one in their right mind would believe such nonsense. But as time went by, more and more people came forward with their own inexplicable sightings and encounters. This reached a boiling point when military pilots and personnel who were trained observers began to break their silence and come forward. The government, scientific community, and academics had to accept there is something to this problem, and they were tasked with finding the answers. Naturally, they approached the conundrum from a terrestrial point of view. Some foreign nation must have invented some new craft and propulsion system, and they are using it to spy on us. They ignore the vast amount of sightings that predate the modern age and the rise of technology. To them, there must be some mundane explanation, and they will not even consider this mystery is alien in nature. In the late 1800s, there were a multitude of airship sightings over America. Dirigibles and hot air balloons were becoming popular as a way to travel through the skies. Though there were few working balloons in the USA, sightings occurred often with strange pilots operating them, and occasionally they would smoke or crash. Could this have been the aliens' attempt to show themselves in such a way that we would comprehend it? Seeing a manned balloon in the sky was much easier to understand in the 1800s than a powerful starship. As our technology advanced and it became common to see airplanes and then jets, the phenomenon advanced as well to saucers, triangles, and more advanced aviation craft. Could the phenomenon have been trying to match our level of understanding as we progressed? Today, we have orbs, spheres, and oblong craft with no visible means of aviation or propulsion. The UAP seems to be so advanced it can fly with no understandable means of lift. It can fly from space into the air, then descend underwater, travel and emerge at some other point, then continue back into space. Could the beings behind the UAP mystery be trying to present themselves in such a way we will accept them? It is entirely possible that whatever or whoever aliens are, they may be so bizarre and undefinable to us that they would have to appear in such a way we can accept them. Their natural appearance may be so frightening or disproportional that we would run in fear. So they approach us at a level just slightly above what we are capable of comprehending. The whole point to the UAP mystery may be to slowly and systematically get us to expand our consciousness to a level where we could know them as we know ourselves. Since the beginning of our civilization, they have been trying to get us to expand our thinking, to accept things well beyond our capabilities, then grow and mature into beings ourselves that can exist along with other beings like them. Their very existence may be a way for us to develop as an intelligent and understanding race, ever pushing us to think outside the box and accept realities beyond the physical. When we see something that appears inexplicable, that does not conform to our understanding of flight and science and nature, we do just that. We expand our consciousness to a higher level of acceptance. It ignites our creativity, and we sometimes try to duplicate the abilities of the phenomenon. It's also possible that all paranormal phenomena are within the same domain. Sightings of Bigfoot, the Loch Ness Monster, spirit animals, and other supernatural events could be a further expansion of this agenda. We have had these events throughout history as well. Could this phenomenon be trying to teach us something? Could it be leading us down a path of destruction? Could all of this be a learning experience for us? The UFO and UAP mystery has been with us since we were able to scribe pictographs on stone cave walls. And all that time, with the exception of a few incidents, the UAPs have never seemed to cause harm or kill us. There has never been an alien invasion, a UFO encounter that turned deadly or created mass destruction. For the most part, UFOs and UAPs appear to be benign. We see them, we're marveled at what they can do, but they leave us with no ill effects on the observer. Alien abductions are traumatic to those who have been taken, but they are usually never harmed, not in such a way that would be considered cruel or malevolent. Incidents have occurred whereby the taken felt extreme fear of the aliens or fear of what might happen to them, but in most cases, they're returned unscathed. It's also possible that within the scope of ufology, there are actually two different phenomena happening. One would be the nuts and bolts alien craft using some advanced technology to visit Earth, and the other is more supernatural in nature. It is confusing to us because we are trying to mix them up and put them all in one basket. One may have nothing to do with the other. Actual visitations from beings from another planet may be rare and happen infrequently, while the other happens quite often. It is us who confuse the two different events. There is a growing movement in the UFO community towards CE5 events. A CE5 is an attempt to make direct contact with aliens using methods like meditation and astral projection. Dr. Stephen Greer conducts such events regularly. CE5 stands for Close Encounters of the Fifth Kind, a term coined by Dr. Stephen Greer to describe a type of extraterrestrial contact that involves direct communication and interaction with advanced intelligent beings. According to Dr. Greer, CE5 contact involves initiating communication with extraterrestrial civilizations using conscious-based techniques such as meditation, remote viewing, and telepathy. The goal of CE5 is to establish peaceful, mutually beneficial relationships with extraterrestrial civilizations, and to promote the understanding that humanity is not alone in the universe. CE5 protocols involve gathering a group of people who are trained in these techniques and using them to make contact with extraterrestrial beings. Many of these events have produced UFO or UAP sightings and have been recorded. There are protocols to adhere to, and usually a guide will instruct the group on what to do. The key here is to open your mind and your senses to the appearance of a UAP or an alien, to call one in and observe it with a group, and make peaceful contact. A growing number of small local groups are available throughout the nation, even worldwide, similar in part to the skywatching groups that used to gather to watch for UFOs. These groups take it a step further to try and initiate contact, often with mixed or successful results. If the UFO phenomenon is wholly or partly conscious-based, this type of communication may be the wave of the future. Science may never embrace it, but as a tool to understand what the UFO mystery is, it could be invaluable. Another method used to communicate with aliens is scientific remote viewing, a technique developed by the U.S. military for sophisticated spying. Remote viewing is the practice of seeking impressions about a distant or unseen subject, purportedly sensing with the mind. Typically, a remote viewer is expected to give information about an object, event, person, or location that is hidden from physical view and separated at some distance. Physicist Russell Targ and Harold Putnoff, parapsychology researchers at Stanford Research Institute, are generally credited with coining the term remote viewing to distinguish it from the closely related concept of clairvoyance. The military has used this method for spying on other nations and people with mixed results. Many who practice remote viewing claim they have made contact with aliens, including the Russians and Americans. A combination of CE5 and remote viewing techniques may be the future of ufology, adding a new dimension to the scientific exploration of alien civilizations who are visiting Earth. A a large number of alien abductees report having telepathic contact with aliens, especially during the abduction process. Aliens will calm the subject, so the process is easier to accept. Some have described being shown apocalyptic images or future events, usually surrounding the environment, nuclear wars, and global devastation. Many abductees come away with a feeling of love or compassion for their captors, while others may be terrified. However, the use of telepathy is common among abductees. In most cases, the alien or creature does not move its mouth to speak, but rather transfers thoughts into the subject's mind. Both words and images are used to communicate. This suggests that the aliens are sensitive to telepathy and communicating on this level. It could be the best way for us to contact them. Language can be limited, and cultures may be so vastly different that this may be the only true way for us and them to relate to each other. With this in mind, we may be looking at a phenomenon that is so vast and encompassing of all sciences that one physical science may not be enough to truly understand what is really going on. Science, as we know it, is focused on the physical existence of foreign craft, but nuts and bolts craft may only be a part of the phenomenon, and some species are not coming here in craft at all. They may be projecting themselves here over great distances via a psychic method. What we perceive as physical craft may be manifestations of their thoughts, made real enough to be detected by radar and optical devices. Imagine an alien species that can manifest a physical object in the sky, maneuver it around, then dematerialize it at will. It is there, it is physical, but it is not a machine, rather an object our devices can detect. This isn't so much a scientific advancement, but rather an advanced culture who has learned how to manipulate reality. Of course, some species may be coming here in physical spacecraft and are here physically when they visit. Others have more advanced psychic methods to achieve the same goal. The problem again is we put all this in the same basket and try to make each encounter make sense together and as one phenomenon, when they are very different. It is entirely possible none of the UAP and UFO encounters we have had are based on physical science, and they all could be supernatural phenomena we simply cannot understand. The reality of the UAP is very advanced from us, both physically and spiritually. We may never truly comprehend it until we as a species have advanced enough to do the same ourselves. That may take centuries. The phenomenon is older than humans on Earth, and there is some bigger picture that we simply cannot grasp. We remain powerless to it, ignorant and living in our own bliss. However, there is no evidence the UAPs represent some malevolent threat against us. There has never been nor will there ever be an alien invasion in the future. The phenomenon appears to be benign in nature. It is not likely alien soldiers will show up one day and start a war as so many movies depict, nor are they going to appear and solve our problems, give us medicines and cures, or advance technology. It seems they're only observing us, perhaps watching our growth as we struggle with daily problems such as wars, famine, and pollution. And their appearance helps us to expand our consciousness, to be open to the possibilities that await us when we grow as a species. In this respect, they are teaching us to be better than we are, to think beyond our limitations. The rise of the UAP is another chapter in an ongoing search for truth and understanding. We can change the name of the phenomenon, attempt to seek answers in different ways, but ultimately, we are exploring ourselves. That which makes us human and the greatness we have within each of us. As we expand our consciousness to accept something greater than ourselves, we step closer to true understanding of the cosmos, those who occupy realms beyond ourselves and our own capabilities. The rise of the UAP is in reality the rise of humankind.